Hello, my name is William, Implementation Specialist at Impero, and welcome to our control testing module. But what is control testing and why is it important? Like the name suggests, control testing is a way to measure the effectiveness of controls over a given period of time. This allows managers, auditors, and other stakeholders to get an accurate picture of how well these controls are fulfilling their intended purpose. And in fact, it can be mandatory for some organizations, like those subject to SOX requirements. Let's start by opening the module in Impero, which should look pretty familiar if you're already used to working with controls. Here you have a list of all testing programs, your pending actions, and the option to create a new testing program here. Testing programs function much like control programs in that they contain all of the different control tests you'll be performing. The tasks to be performed are grouped at the sample level, which evaluates the individual control activities, and at the control level, which is drawing an overall conclusion about the control itself. The idea here is that your control conclusions will be made based on the responses to your sample conclusions. All control tests include the required effectiveness rating as part of the control conclusion, but you can add additional tasks to both groups: comments, checklists, file uploads, anything that will help you make an accurate evaluation. Once you have a testing program set up, you create the tests themselves based on one or multiple controls. Begin by selecting the control you want to evaluate, which will automatically populate all tags attached to that control into your test. In the sampling criteria section, you define the scope of your test, including the time period your sample will come from, and which entities should be tested based on the tags attached to the control or its assignments. Test assignments and scheduling work the same as Impero controls, with users receiving an email notification when it's time to perform or review a test. Actually performing the control test begins with selecting which control activities you want to evaluate. This list is populated based on the sampling criteria you set earlier. Select each activity to bring it into the test, and then evaluate one at a time by clicking on the control name. In this view, you have a link to the activity itself and can perform tasks as part of your sample conclusion. As a control test reviewer, you'll get an indication of whether or not the sample control has actually been viewed to ensure that judgments are not being made without first reviewing the evidence. After working through each sample, control testers move on to the final step, the control conclusion. Here we're thinking about what our sample evaluations say about the control as a whole. We have our mandatory effectiveness question, as well as any other control level tasks we've included in this test. After taking a look at the initial results, reviewers have the option to leave comments, upload additional files, and finally approve or reject the test. Completed test results are visible in the Activities tab, and you can also export these results in an Excel format for further processing. Control testing in Impero allows you to produce documented evidence of continuous monitoring and improvement, which can ultimately save on time and costs when it comes to producing audit evidence or management reports. Above all, it makes it easy to identify and fill gaps in your internal control framework. Thanks for following along, and please feel free to reach out to us if you'd like to learn more about control testing in Impero.